Hey you guys, Miss Smith here. Today we're going to be solving for a given variable. All right, so let's look at this problem number 3 first. You see the only variable here is y, so that's definitely what we're going to be solving for here. And then we'll be solving for different things later. So we have 1 over negative 2 times y equals 8. So when you're trying to get rid of that 1 over negative 2, think about what it's doing to the y. It's right next to the y, so what it's showing us is multiplication. So to get rid of that 1 over negative 2, let's definitely divide it. So we're going to divide this side by negative 1 over 2. It doesn't really matter where you put that negative sign. And then what you do to one side, you also do to the other. So negative 1 over 2 there. And then on my calculator, this part cancels out. So on my calculator, all I really need to do is 8 divided by, and then I set up my fraction with a negative 1 or 2. I could have put positive 1, negative 2. It doesn't matter. And then hit equals, or enter, and it equals negative 16. So y equals negative 16 for that one. Okay, and now let's do number 4, which is just a little bit different. It says solve for a given variable, and if you look at the instructions, it says solve each equation for y. So what that means is you want to get the y by itself, and you want to push everything else to the other side of the equal sign. So right now, the only thing keeping the y from being by itself is that x, right? So let's get rid of the x, just the same way as if it were a number. So right now it's a minus x. What we need to do is add x. Just like if it had been, say, a minus 4, we would need to add 4, right? So it's a minus x. Let's do the opposite, which is to add x. And what we do to one side, we do to both sides. That is going to cancel out, and you're going to be left with y on this side, and then 10 plus x on the other side. Now that the y is by itself, see how he's all by himself? We know we are done. Our equation is solved for y, because the y is by itself. I know this doesn't really look like a solution, and it's not going to look like a solution, and that's okay. You are done at this point. Let's do number 5. All right, this time we have 5x equals 4y. Again, we are solving for y, and how do we know we're solving for y? It's just in the instructions up here. You always have to know from the instructions. So if we're trying to get the y by itself, that means we need to get rid of the 4, right? Okay, so let's think about what is the 4 doing to the y? It's multiplying, right? So to get rid of something that's multiplying by the y, we're going to have to divide it because we have to do the opposite. And what you do to one side, you also do to the other. So divide this guy by 4. And then these will cancel out. Let's bring it all down. We're just going to have the y left over here. And over here, you're going to have 5x over 4. Or you could write it differently. If you wanted to, you could think of that as 5 over 4. X equals y. Both of these are totally correct, okay? All right, and again, we know we're done here because the y is by itself. Let's go to number 6. Okay, once again, we're trying to get this y all by himself. So let's start off by getting rid of the 5x. It looks like the 5x is being added or subtracted to the y, so we need to get rid of it with addition or subtraction. If it's a positive 5x, we're going to get rid of it by subtracting 5x. So subtract 5x from this side, and then whatever you do to one side, you got to do to the other. So do that, and then these go away. Now I bring down what's left. What is left over here? We've got a negative and a y, not just a y. So we got negative y equals, and now these, they're not like terms, you can't combine them. So you're just going to write them as 3 minus 5x. Okay. Are we done? Not yet, because there's still that pesky negative in front of the y. We're not done until we get rid of the negative. So if you want to think of that as a negative 1y, what you're going to do is divide by negative 1 to get rid of it. Okay, so guys, here's the thing. You've got more than one term over here. You might be thinking, which number do you divide by negative 1? And the answer is you got to divide both of them by negative 1. So each term gets divided by negative 1. So it's going to be like that. This negative 1 cancels out, leaves us just with y. And now 3 divided by negative 1 gives us negative 3. And negative 5x divided by negative 1 gives us positive 5x. So basically what that does is it just changes the sign on the 3, and it changes the sign on the minus 5x. And then this is your answer. Just so you know, if you wanted to write it the other way, in other words, 5x minus 3, that is correct also. Just make sure that the 5 is the positive one and the 3 is the negative one, okay? All right, we're going to do number 7 and then number 10, and then we're going to be done. Okay, number 7. This time we have negative y equals negative 3 minus 8x. Okay, this thing is almost solved for us. We want the y by itself, and it's almost by itself. We just have one of those pesky negatives again. So again, think of it as like a negative 1 multiplying by the y. And to get rid of that negative 1, you're going to want to divide it by negative 1. And then over here on this side, you have to divide each term by the same thing. So divide by negative 1 here, and divide by negative 1 there. Okay, so these negative 1s cancel out, leaving you just the y, which is great. That's what you want. And then negative 3 divided by negative 1 is positive 3. And negative 8 divided by negative 1 is positive 8. And then there you go. The y is by itself. You have your answer. Okay, like I said, I want to do number 10 as well, and then we'll be done. So we have 0 equals negative y minus 3 plus 2x. Okay, there's different ways you could do this. I'm thinking we want the y by itself, right? So let's try bringing the y to this side, because there's a whole lot going on this side already. It's pretty busy over here. But over here, there's just this little lonely 0. So what if we brought the y over here, and then maybe it would be by itself without too much work. So if we have a negative y, the opposite of that is plus y. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So this plus y here cancels it here and gets rid of it from the right side. And then what is 0 plus y? Well, that's just going to give us y. So now we have y equals, and it looks like we have negative 3 plus 2x. Okay, and then you're done because that y is by itself. And then that's all you got to do. If you need any help, be sure to ask one of us. We would love to help you guys. And otherwise, have an awesome day.